Good morning. So we'll begin with the Manjushri prayer to Manjushri. Lama dangumbo jambalayang lan chanza lo kangi londrin jimyen jindra nitra namda rapsal jinyen dengen jijen sijir nyeje tukara lekbam zen kanda sip Sandora Mare Mendum Dunga Jizrewe Dozo Kunla Pujin Darze Yenla Chuju Yanden Zon Dodara Jedro Nyemo Nyelo Leji Chadro Doze Je Mare Menze Dunga Nyugu Jinyen Jenze Ralje Nam Denen Dajin Saji Tarse Yunden Luzo Jase Tuwe Gu Chudan Chud Chunyen Jende Dale Munze Jambe Yangla De Umara Bajana 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 Umara Bajana De 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 Umara Umara Bajana de 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 Zeden Jeje Chenra Vizre Dale Demo Membarazane Kadan Denje Jonglo Tobai Lodre Pobe Nawan Chandu Zon Zonji Tanji Jingo Redan Jingur Janzen Chada Kaden Zonda Majiba Palawa Jenju Jijabesha Jindu Jima Meba Languvera Dotude Pazungu Bajimbe Gone Chanza Jinjo Zojo Shiwane Sarab Tamjedu Tuje Jesu Zimbaraze Dozo Kangi Jazanda Mingom Gezar Zimbe Nonda Shin Zimbe Sewe Zendum Barvendu Kunme Gendu Zejur Tuje Dama Kune Juren Jiden Zumji Konjabe Tuambe Mogarbe Jeben Dirin Dale Yenzuru Jon Ujen Zolim Bemen Dombo Zeren Jave Namdu Ranjun Linjudu Zenzo Beje Den Jombarbi Peman Junen Dale Yenzuru Jon Gumbuludu Arian Devandan Tome Nyen Cholan Jujinda Jujun Janam Nipa Ozo Zamlin Jenjo Nam Jenda Jon Ore Degaren Jenim Begulu Yunden Gunjunga Veshasardo Nimbi Denzi Bebe Nanjurba Longchen Ramjam Jajen Da Ye Jon Redon Jamba Junu Jina Le Gombe Long Le Po Peter Jedol Londo Chenze Nyam Zenga Wanjur Mipam Jambi Yangi Da Ye Jon Kangi Dala Riva Loba Dan Doji Tenje Menga Nang Lazo Laba Zada Ungurishin Lambi Nguju Tinjen La Menda Ye Jon Namonguru Chinyim Pamen Tenje Shizala Kunja Ranjun Duje Jimbe Din Duje Gala Kamenta Nawa Palden la me jenda ejon yende sanje kunda nyana ya kadin sanje kunel habi ben savi la me jala swande ason roe lamna chela njur konda jujur dongi jidena deje la marjur ba kansu da tender tambe chuji charbebe sembara deva dada andir sheje namo aryan thamba lai ke dan lu dan jinge ndubum dada me kenam dan dua kunje danam jisambar Tamje ke do sosur tejurji. Manjurin rowa namka danyam besim jen tamje namdol denji devala name pa yanda varzo bisanji jingu varum burchela chine jamgu varsha. Tei chedu tiba chimbe shunglu jaze chimbo shivala teni jizebe chanju sembe choba lanju patini sushindo sene nyamsu langwar jiwa nyamdo. Samba chanju chodo tuje vadanche de sen sao. So, firstly, we need to have a right motivations in order to engage into this meritorious activity of teaching and listening Dharma. So the right motivation is by raising the awakened mind, which we should raise in this way, starting from the ones dearest, such as like a mother, and then try to have that kind of like the willing to pay their great kind, and the such as like that sense, how to say, need to share that sense with the all other sentient beings, and just treat, how to say, think like one's mother who have been offered great kind to oneself, and then to in order to pay kind back, and I would like to uh, free them from the cyclic existence and the it cause, which is karma and afflictive emotions, and then to lead them to complete enlightenment. For this purpose, um, I'm going to listening this Mahayana scripture composed by Shantideva, The Way of Bodhisattva's Life, and and I will going to implement it with that intention, and then try to listen this teaching. And then on the additional, on the side, also that the manner while listening the Dharma teachings should be in this way, they listen carefully in an excellent way, and then try to implement the meaning of the teaching as well as the words. With that preparation, listen to this Dharma. And then the actual Dharma teaching, that within this way of Bodhisattva's life, there's a 10th chapter and 4th theme. So far, we completed the first and second theme, and then also the third theme, that we are in a third theme, which is the kind of like a first, that how the first theme is how to the value of bodhicitta and how to receive that valuable things within oneself. And then the second theme is how should not lose that valuable things, which is bodhisattva's vow, bodhicitta and bodhisattva's vow. Um, how to maintain. And then the third theme is to not just not losing, but further how one can develop or improve this bodhicitta. That the first two themes we completed with the 6th chapter, and then the third theme is how to improve that, and in order to improve, then it required the three things, which is like diligence and the meditative concentration and the wisdom. So among these three, that how to have a diligence within oneself, and that we already studied, learned. Now, today from here, we are studying then how to have this meditative concentrations within oneself. This is what we are going to study, this chapter 8. So the first stanza begins with the Tetar Tsundu Keneni Yine Tingezin La Shaks Semni number yen with me, Numonche Vitana ne song. And now this first stanza is like a brief instruction of the why this meditative concentration it's needed. Very short, brief, and then later it will going to be elaborate. Then this The first stanza is mainly showing this brief, and together with the kind of like a connecting from the diligence to after diligence, then what we need to practice or what we need to train to have it within oneself is the meditative concentrations. So therefore, how to say, uh, they translated this cultivating diligence as just described. And then in concentration, I will place my mind. That's the actually the brief, what do you call it? That what the kind of like how to say, it is like a connecting after diligence what one needs to do. What one needs to do after diligence is then we need to put our mind, that I will place my mind in concentration. That's what we need to do in order to develop our bodhicitta. That's the main thing, right? Uh, this is all talking about that one. For those whose mind are slack and wandering, are caught between the fangs of the afflictions. And the now with this stanza, in this way, the diligence that we studied, like entity of diligence, and then the contrary of diligence, such as the three types of laziness, and then the alliance of diligence, which is such as like a four tubes and two powers, and by uh, recognizing the entity of diligence and then avoiding the contrary of diligence and then the um, gathering the alliance of diligence, then through that way we can uh, how to say developed the diligence within oneself. Then after developed diligence, then what we need to do, the next our responsibility or next step is to uh, in concentration I will place my mind. That will be the next responsible next steps. So this Shantideva actually within this way of Bodhisattva's life, guiding step by step the Mahayana path, the Mahayana spiritual path, kind of like he's teaching us like a step how to practice one after another, how to take the steps. And that's how we should train ourselves in Mahayana spiritual path, in these six pranjana paramitas, step by steps. Why? And because that the next two line is the kind of like a brief reason why we need to how to say place one's mind in concentration. Because for those whose mind are slack and wandering, are caught between the fangs of afflictions. So the fangs is the metaphor of afflictions. So affliction itself does not have any form or tangible that uh, maybe we cannot the touch or the see very clear. That's why they were using here the fangs. Nobody wants to stay between fangs, right? Nobody, especially nobody wants to stay between the tiger's fangs or the lion's fangs or the snake's fangs and so on. Anyhow, the fangs. No one, if one aware that oneself is in between the tiger's fangs, then what we will going to do? We will going to immediate find the way to get out of it, isn't it? But the fact that what Shantideva was saying is that those who are not avoiding, or those who are constantly conceptualizing or distracting themselves by all these mundane varieties, conditions, are actually, it is equal like a staying in between the fangs of tiger or the lion or the snake or whatsoever, or here Canada, maybe the bear. Polo bear, maybe staying in between the polo bear's fangs. It is equal like that. That's the metaphor. The fangs is the metaphor to understand how the affliction is danger, because the affliction mind that we are many times, sometimes, we can sense very easily, but many times we forget that. So that's what metaphor as it used it, like a destructive mind or conceptual minds, it's like that. So therefore, this the meditative concentration will help us to keep our mind away from distractions, away from conceptual. When we keep distance or away from the conceptual or the distractions, and what it really makes us, it is makes us to run away from the fangs of whatsoever those wild animals, right? That's what it means. So in brief, that this is now very brief introduction about the what's the fault and why we need to put our mind, uh, the place one's mind in concentrations. And then the placing one's mind concentration is the after developing diligence. You see here, after developed diligence, then we should train to put our mind into the in concentration, meditative concentration. And why we need to do this? Because that the being able to put the place one's mind in meditative concentration, it's like a escaping away from the fangs of those wild animals, which is something that what do you call it? How to say, necessary for us to keep away from those fangs, isn't it? Better not to stay in the fangs of polar bear. Okay, anyway, so that's the short. This first stanza is very brief and short and contained the what is the next practice we should do after diligence, as well as what practice we need to do for what purpose. Actually, if you understand this stanza clearly, if you are kind of like a how to say, in these scriptures, they're describing like a very contained and then elaborate and then summarizing. Many scripture has like that. It is why, because of the within a listener there will many faculties, right? Many faculties, many level of faculties. So therefore, some, when he said this one stanza, they got it. Okay, so meditation. Next, our responsibility, our training is meditation. And why we need to do is because of this. They are enough with it. No need to so elaborate. And then now the person who needs elaborate, then it goes from this next stanza, the second and third. Actually, this one stanza is complete its theme, actually, in a very condensed way of completing. And then now, now from the second stanza, kind of like the elaborating that why and all these things. So in elaborations, so the first, this next stanza is the what do you call it? Elaborating the contrary of meditative concentrations. Look, now it is the actually the what do you call it? Contrary of meditative concentrations. It's already described it in the first stanza, right? But now from here, describing in an elaborate way the contrary of meditative concentrations. So now this second stanza is actually the very brief way of introducing, again brief way of introducing the contrary of meditative concentration. Okay, so that's keep in mind. So the second stanza is the brief or the content contrary of meditative concentrations, introducing from this next, the second stanza. And then from third, elaborating all this contrary with the reason and then the contrary itself, and then avoid those contraries, and then needs to stay in a solitude on all those describing elaborate way. And then the second stanza, which is the introducing the contrary, right? Contrary, you understand, right? When we say contrary, the contrary of meditative concentrations is Ludan semni wembai number yengwa mijungos. Dewe jigden panjashin number toba yongsu torors. In short, brief, the contrary for the meditative concentration is in solitude, the mind and body are not troubled by distraction. Therefore, live this worldly life and totally abandon mental wandering. You see? So now, mainly what it is describing from here, this second stanza is the body. In solitude, the mind and body are not troubled by distractions. So, the contrary of meditative concentration is the not keeping one's physical body, right? The physical away from crowd, in short. Not keeping one's physical body, not keeping away from crowded. Crowded? Crowded, right? Crowd. Huh? Crowd. Not keeping away from crowd. And then the mental, the mind, kind of like not keeping away from conceptual, right? Not keeping away from conceptual. So that is the physical body not keeping away from crowded, and then the mental not keeping away from conceptual. That is the brief, short contrary of meditative concentrations. The persons who willing to improve their meditative concentration must understand these two contraries. These two contrary will disturb us or prevent us to train in meditative concentrations. That's why it is saying this way. The mind and body are not troubled by distractions. Not troubled by distraction. So in order not to, okay, so now in order to keep our physical away from crowd and keep our mental away from conceptual, and where these two things kind of like a where how we are unable to keep away from these two things is not being able to abandon the worldly or the mundane, right? That's why. Therefore, leave this worldly life and totally abandon mental wandering. So, in order to keep away our both physical and mental from its kind of like a crowd and conceptual, what we need to do is the uh, abandon the worldly life. The worldly life. Okay, so here now, short, the worldly life. What does it mean, right? Uh, So the conceptual and then crowded, it's easy, right? Easy to understand. The conceptual, it's arise when we are kind of like a um, constantly engaged or utilize those four desirable objects, such as like it's very short, like a form, sound, smell, taste, and feeling, those five desirable objects. As long as we are engaging into those things with the sense of attachment, or as long as we are utilizing those things, and these things will going to uh, the what do you call it, these things will going to become the condition for our raise our conceptual, raise our concept. Um, Number yung medjungos by keeping away from these two things, and then we will going to able to avoid the distractions. So therefore, now in order to avoid the distraction, and we need to abandon the mundane. That's what it means. Dewe jigden pangjashings. And then now, what does the jigden, how to recognize and which things are considering as a mundane and which are not? Then I already described this many times, and such as like those in general, four mundane activities and eight worldly concerns. We can summarize within these two. The mundane, as soon as when we talk about the mundane, we talk about these two things. The four worldly activities or four mundane activities, or eight worldly concern. So that's what it means, jigden. That's what we need to abandon in order to avoid the distractions. And the person who is able to avoid these four mundane activity and eight worldly concerns, then that person will going to have a less concept. When the person has a less concept, more opportunity to able to train in meditative concentrations. So you see, meditative concentrations only able to we will able to practice when we are able to avoid, or when we are able to abandon the distraction. So the distraction, in order to avoid the distraction, and one must needs to avoid those the mundane activities and then it can be summarized within the physical involving and mental involving. Physical involving in crowded, mental involving in conceptual, engaging into those five desirable objects and so on. So you see, so now in short, that's the really contraries, the jigden. And then now from this next stanza, then elaborating this reason and contrary and everything. So this next stanza 3 and stanza 4, this two stanza is actually introducing that what do you call it? The reason, evidence, or the reason why we need to avoid these mundane activities, why we need to abandon these mundane activities. That's what introducing within next two stanza. Okay, so chakbi chirdang nyesokla, how they introducing is chakbi chirdang nyesokla sebe jiden mipontes dewe ditak yongpongla kebe ditar sheparashas shine rabtu dembi langtongi nyumo number jumba shechene thomar shine tsalja teani jiden chaba mela ngunge drus. So now from here, elaborating, right? Elaborate the contraries. First, here, this next third and fourth stanza, introducing the why we need to abandon those contraries of meditative concentrations, which is like a worldly activities, right? Because of loved one and desire for gain. So now here, according to Shantideva, this is scripture, recognizing mundane or the worldly as these two things. These two things, you see. Because of loved ones and desire for gain. Understand? Because of loved one and desire for gain. So the loved one means, okay, here, according to this scripture, Shantideva, what he is introducing or identifying the worldly, how to identify the world according to this Shantideva scripture is that attached to beings and the, desire for gain. Two things, right? Loved one, here they described it, loved one. So actually attach to being. Being means now it should start from one's closest persons, such as like a family members, right? Parent, mother, father, grandfather, grandmother, siblings, and then relatives, friends, and then also could be one's kind of like a partner, one's spouse, one's boyfriend, girlfriend, any. You see, that's all it is just describing. That's what you should understand when we're saying this attached to beings means that, okay? Attached to beings and attach desire for gain. Attach or the desire for gain. Gain means now, right? How to say? Like material gain, money, things, and reputations and positions, promotions, and all this are included here in gain. You see, gain, right? Actually, it is very summarizing. This is the very skilled way of summarizing these 8 worldly concerns and 4 dharma activities, right? It is very kind of like a very skillful way of containing within these two. According to Shantideva here in this scripture, how it is introducing the mundane introducing, okay, when I am attached to beings, right? When I am attached to beings, that means I am engaging into mundane activity, in short. And likewise, when I desire for gain, like finance, materials, positions, promotions, and reputations, and praise, and anything, gain, right? Something we feel like I gain it. Whatever it can be experienced, the feeling gain. Summarizing, these are very summarized words. That's why we call outer outer gain and inner being. This is how Shantideva summarizing what's the mundane. So as long as I am desire for gain of finance, materials, reputations, and positions, promotions, and anything, as long as I am desire towards them, and then it makes me, I am engaging in mundane activities. Okay, that's how Shantideva introducing here within this third stanza, right? Chakbichirna nyesokla sepe jigdemi bondes. We fail to turn away from worldly things. You see, because of loved ones and desire for gain, we fail to turn away from worldly things. Here, worldly refers to these two things, right? Very clear. So now, after that, even for instance, this morning that when we practice the Ch8, it is also in that instruction, the meditation, also letting us meditations to abandon the worldly, right? Abandon the worldly. At that time, how we should think, how we should visualize, how we should think. This is what it is talking about, right? So, what do you call it? Sepe jigdeme bondes. That loved, attached, and desire, because of this, will make us fail to turn away from worldly things, right? Dewe tita yongpong la kepe titar chebarjas. And how they translate it. This then are the first things to renounce or the abandon. Same, right? Is it same? Renounce and abandon, same? Yeah. This then are the first things. So this means those two things, right? Those two things. Then are the first things to renounce, to abandon, in order to develop or the train into meditative concentrations. What is that? The prudent, is it? The prudent should conduct themselves like this. The prudent should analyze like this. Like this, what is like this? Like this is next. It is showing next, okay? There's no like this at the ahead. Anyway, what it is saying, so therefore, these two things needs to abandon complete, and then the wise should analyze in this way, right? Wise person should analyze in this way. Which way? This way, that penetrative insight joined with the calm abiding utterly eradicates the afflicted states. That's what we should understand, analyze. That's what it is talking about. You see, I don't know how this English understanding, Sean? It's fine? Yeah. Okay, good. Then penetrative insight joined with the calm abiding utterly eradicates afflicted states. Knowing this, first search for calm abiding found by people who are happy to be free from worldly ties. You see, now this is talking about the reason, right? Or the evidence or the reason, providing reference that why we need to abandon the worldly ties. The worldly ties? Ties means which? Binding, right? Yeah, worldly ties. So therefore, we should avoid the worldly ties. It's clear, right? Clear. And then now next, so far, Shantideva introduced it us that we need to avoid the worldly, and then to identify it, that how to avoid the worldly things mainly talks about these two things, right? Inwardly, abandoning attached to beings, and outwardly avoiding or abandoning the desire for gain. These two things, right? Now, the next, from this stanza 5 all the way to stanza 16, right? 5 to 16, almost like a 12th stanza, isn't it? 12th stanza, is it? Is it 12? 5 to 16? Huh? 11? Okay. So the 11, next 11 stanza. Next 11 stanza is now, Shantideva from here, describing in a very elaborate way that how one should practice the avoiding the what do you call that? Attached to inner being. You understand? Attached to inner being. So now that's describing elaborate way. And these are actually itself is like a meditative concentrations. See, when we are very contemplate and observe all those meanings, that also can help us to build the meditative concentration as well. Okay. But actually here, mainly it talks about the contraries. Before you train the meditative concentrations, one should understand its contraries and then avoid those contraries. And contraries is these two things, attached to inner being and then attached to desire for outer gain, right? Desire for outer gain. Now from here, this stanza 5 to 16 is elaborating how to avoid the attach to inner beings. Okay? Mitak sushik mitak la yangda chakbar jeba yus. Teni tserap tongcha tu dupa thongwar yomi jurus. Okay. So this stanza, it's introducing the long-term falls of attaching to inner beings. Okay, long-term falls attach to inner beings. So here, inner beings, Shantideva didn't specify it. He didn't specify it here. The inner beings, as I described earlier, could be anything, start from one's parents to any other, okay? Any other, even one's spouse, boyfriend, girlfriend, and relatives, friends, and everything, okay? Everything. So attach. Now this stanza, fifth stanza, is talking about the how to avoid that attached to inner being, right? By understanding the falls of long-term falls of attaching to beings. And then how they translate it here. Beings brief, ephemeral, right? Who strongly cling to what is also transcend. Is it transcend? Transcend. Will catch no glimpse of those they love for many thousands of their future lives. That's the long-term falls of attached to beings. And now this is something really letting us contemplate now. Mita sushi mita la yanda chabar cheba yus means that the actually uncertain, the object is also uncertain, and then the subject is also uncertain. Means myself is also uncertain, and then the being who I attach, they are also uncertain, right? They are also uncertain. So now what it is really talking about, yanda chabar chebayu means when we suddenly, or the what do you call it, in a very carefully, if we really think, is there any good reason for myself to really generate attach to them? That's what it means. Is there really kind of like a if I scrutinize about this all uncertainty, both subject and the object, right? Both myself and then the beings who I attach, who I consider as a desirable, or attach. Both are very uncertain. It change very quick. If we do not scrutinize, contemplate very carefully, yes, then we fail to attach. Yes, that's what we do. That's what we do many times. Now here Shantideva letting us to contemplate with the scrutinize, contemplate in a very thorough. That's what it's saying, Shantideva. If you really thoroughly or the scrutinize upon this, its essence, its nature, is there really that can you find something desirable, attachable? That's what it's saying. Chebayus. Teni tserap tontra du duba tonga yommejurs means that is there really in essence there that something very desirable? It's saying no, there's nothing really essentially desirable is there. It is the beings who you love, very subject to change in every moment. Yes, this is something really needs to contemplate, right? The person who really we like, when they change, actually, that's not the person we like, isn't it? That's not the person I like. I liked the before one, isn't it? But without scrutinizing, then we feel this same person. But actually, if we really scrutinize, it didn't remain the same. It changed it already. And then the person who changed their character, that's not the person who I start to like it, who I choose it, isn't it? And then next, again, it will change to the another. So that is what Shantideva letting us contemplate here. When we really scrutinize in this way, there's not a really object that is there solitary or not changing, that which we choose first time. Therefore, there's a no really object that is very desirable. Why? Because there's ni tserap tongta do duba tongayo measures. The person who carry that strong attachment towards those beings. Now, it is also including one's parents, okay? Isn't it a little contradicting now with the Bodhisattva? Yeah. Okay, anyway. So even including the one's parents and then every beings, that better there's a no really essential object is there which is really desirable. Even though there's a no really desirable object, and if we desire, then what will going to happen? If I have a strong attached to them, then what the consequences it could bring to myself is, then it is saying this, will catch no glimpse of those they love for many thousands of their future lives. Now, how we can understand this? Thousands of their future lives, right? Even one future life, we don't know what is going to be happen. Now, how this we can understand? This is now actually Shantideva saying long-term falls of having attachment towards the one's closeness, one's the inner being, the close beings, starting from one's mother, father, towards every beings. That we can understand, but the logically we can understand this, that how right now I am having such a stuck when I have a strong attached to these people. Does it help us to understand how it will going to ruin our future life? Does it help? Logically, if I kind of say, understand how I am struggling when I have a strong attached to my closest persons, how I am struggling. This logic, this experience can tell us, because this habit, the pattern will going to be remain, right? This pattern will going to be remain in a future life. When this patterns maintain in a future life, that my future life will going to be stuck similar as I am right now. As long as I keep this attached with me, this struggle will going to keep continue with me. Logically, we can a little bit understand this one. But now this again, first we need to debate and have a conviction about future life. then this logic works. Right? Anyway, so here this is not the moment that we introducing the future life. Here, here is the time to introducing the long-term falls of attaching to one's beings. Then this translation, is this translation the same meaning as I described? Huh? Will catch no glimpse of those they love for many thousands of their future lives. What is it saying? Sean?
Well, it's more basic and to the point, but you're filling in all the gaps. So I'm getting a lot more information than I would have got just from the 4 verses in the stanza.
Uh-huh.
And a lot more background information from your commentary.
Uh-huh. Then instead of the Dubaton Yomijers, will catch no glimpse of those they love for many thousands of their future lives, right? So that's the long-term false. And then the next one, short-term false. Temporarily false, right? Short-term false of attaching to the beings, which is matonani ga megyur, yikyang nyamjok megyur las. Tongyang ngombar megyurwe, ngarshin sebe dungar jurers. So not seeing them, right? The person who I attach, who I hold as a dearest, right? Person who I hold as a dearest, the person not seeing them. Their mind means my mind. Okay, should be like my mind. Okay, their mind will have no joy. That's very common, right? Not seeing them, feel very anxious. Oh, what this my dear person doing? Where he is? With whom? What he is eating? How he is sleeping? Oh, is he fine? Is he not sick? Is he not get coronavirus? Is he not get affected by coronavirus? Right? Like oh, this worry, which is not joy, right? Not joy. My mind will have no joy, right? If I not see them, my mind will have no joy, right? That's the one thing. And they therefore will not rest in equanimity. And then even with that concern, with that worry, with that anxious, even if I want to practice meditation, I won't be able to meditate, right? That also fail us this temporarily able to meditate as well. That is strong attach, that is dearest, carrying the dearest sense. And then on the other hand, now this is too strange. But even if they see them, but even if I see them, I am not content, right? I'm not content. They are not content. And as before, the pain of longing stay. Pain of longing stay. Pain of longing stay. Ngarshin sebe dungarjurs. Like before, how, okay, it is Shanti, they were saying like this, the problem, the anxious or the sense of difficultiousness is similar like before, which means that when I do not see them, I feel no joy, right? But also when I see them, that experience, no joy is going to be continue, same as before. And as before, the pain of longing stays, will going to be there. This is now really happening within our life, right? Day-to-day life. We worry about our siblings, we worry about our parents, we worry about our friends, we worry about our spouse, we worry about our boyfriend, girlfriends, we worry about our, what do you call enemies? Enemy? Are we worried about our enemy?
Yeah.
Good, good. That should be worry, right? If the parent is worryable object, then enemy is also worryable object, right? If you do not, then it's become not fair. Anyway, worry is not good. In short, that's what it's saying, Shandideva. But that's what we do. This worry will going to be remain as long as we continue this attachment. You see, this worry, pain, suffering, difficulties will going to be remain. Sometimes we humans so complicated. You know why? Because when we talk about this pain, difficulties, suffering, worry, and everybody talks one thing. Oh, I do not want. But the cause of all this, which is attachment, then everybody will going to say, no, I cannot let it go. See, I cannot let it go, it cause. I do not want its fruition. That's why Shantideva also said it already before, right? Even though we wish to abandon this suffer, but we chased after its cause. And even we wish to gain happiness, but we destroy the cause of happiness. So here, this is short-term, the force of carrying or the having attached towards beings. Okay, and then this next stanza is talking about the kind of like we can say like an ultimate fault, as well as simultaneously also it is introducing that it will going to what do you call it, procrastinates our practice, our spiritual training. This attach will going to procrastinate, delay, or prevent, not just delay, actually prevent to train our spiritual practice, as well as it will bring this ultimate force as well. So both, right? How? Introducing by Shantideva here. Semchen namla Ch8 na yangdak nidla kunne tips. Kyowi semkyang jigbarche tamar nyangen dungwar gyurs. If I crave for other beings, right? Other beings. A will is cast upon the perfect truth. Veil. A veil is cast upon the perfect truth. And then that's the one fault. Wholesome disillusion, right? Wholesome disillusion melts away. The second. And finally, there comes the sting of pain. Yeah, semjen namla chachenas. If I crave, right? Crave means attached. Same, right? Strong desire. Oh, then maybe crave may be better, right? Crave. Yeah. If I crave to beings, right? If I crave to beings, and that sense of crave will a will is cast, a will is cast upon the perfect truth. It will cover it. That mind or the experience or the sense will cover our this, what do you call it, the intelligent, which has this potential to able to see the as it is, see the truthfulness, right? Within our mind we have this intelligent wisdom to able to see the things as it is, truthfulness, right? That intelligent will going to will by cast, right? Cast or will, well by this curve, right? Crave will cover, actually, okay, if I use very common language, the crave will cover our intelligent. That's the one fall, right? That's how it prevents us to train our spiritual training. It disturbs us to develop our spiritual training. You see, when we fail to see as it is, then no developed spiritual training, right? No improvement of spiritual training. Spiritual training here is that needs to develop these intelligence, which has a potential to see the things as it is, right? Developing these intelligence, these wisdoms is developed spiritual path. So one fault, and it is like that. And then the another one, wholesome dissolution melts away. That's what they translated. That means even, let's say, when we have some sense of revulsion, right? Revulsion is the little bit lighter sense of renunciation, isn't it? These are similar, right? Revulsion, renunciation.
Revulsion is when you don't want something.
Yeah, don't want something. It is a little bit lighter than the the mental itself is a little bit lighter than renunciation, isn't it?
Renunciation is when I give up drinking alcohol. I give up.
Oh, that's renunciation.
Revulsion is well.
Don't want it. Oh, I thought the revulsion is a little bit less stronger word for renunciation.
No, it's actually stronger.
Stronger.
Yeah, because if I open the fridge and there's bad food, it's feeling like the floor. You don't want to smell. Renunciation.
Okay. So renunciation, sense of renunciation or revulsion will going to be destroyed by this graph. Okay. Let's say that we do have some intelligence to able to see the things as it is. And then we want to free ourselves from this cyclic existence, right? And that type of mind will going to be destroyed. It will remove that kind of mind. Yes, right? When we, this crave and revulsion cannot be stay together, right? When we have a crave, make sense? It will going to remove this revulsion, sense of revulsion, right? When we have a revulsion, it will remove the sense of crave. What? Grave, right? So this crave also destroys our sense of revulsion. sense of renunciation. Generally about this samsara, particularly this lives, right? Grave. Tamar nyangan dunga jurus, and finally there comes the sting of pain. Yeah. Tamar nyangan dunga jurus. So now until this 5, 6, 7, the fifth stanza talks about the long-term falls of grave, and then the sixth stanza talks about the temporary short-term falls of grave, and then the seventh stanza talks about the what do you call it, the what do you call it, how to say, the long-term falls, the ultimate falls, and the how it prevents the developing our spiritual training, right? And then dela semba bashigi tsedi teme dawajur takba maybe zasheji yungzhung chojan jigbar jurus. My thoughts are all for them. So now this is conclusion, kind of like a one method is concluding. Until here, Shantideva gave it one method or the one idea, skills, how to avoid the mundane regards crave to beings, inner beings. Okay? By thinking of falls of crave, long-term, short-term, ultimate, and how it is disturbing our spiritual journey. Right? And this now conclusion. My thoughts are all for them, and thus my life is freighted by. My family and friends all change and pass, for whom I changeless Dharma is cast out. Changeless Dharma is cast out. Is it? So now conclusion here, the first method is concluding within this 8 stanza, that saying now, in short, having crave only concerning about those beings, right? Tela Simba Bashiki. By continuously craving about them, what it will going to do to myself is my my life is fitted by. Is it? It will fitted by. That's the one thing. And then taba maybe zasheji yungzhung chojanji borjur. Also this crave. Even though I crave, but the object which I crave are very uncertain. It is subject to change, right? It is subject to change. The things which is subject to change, and then I am continuously carrying this craves, right? Crave. That crave can be destroyed, even this kind of like a changeless Dharma. They translated changeless Dharma. Yeah. That it can shortly, we can say like this, the ultimate pleasure, ultimate pleasant, which can achieve through this spiritual training, right? Ultimate happiness. The ultimate happiness, which is we can achieve through this Dharma training, that result is like a changeless, right? The ultimate, okay, let's say the enlightenment. Once enlightenment, then that's ultimate goal of spiritual training, or the liberation, even liberation. Once you liberate it, that's it. Never going to change, right? You only goes up, never going to come down. That's for sure, permanent. Even that permanent, right? That permanent is the fruition of spiritual training. That spiritual training is destroying by these craves, right? Therefore, it named in this way. Even that changeless Dharma, this changeless Dharma directly refers to the fruition, enlightened, liberation. Okay? Indirectly, it refers to the path, Dharma, path. This path, spiritual training, it is destroying by craving in these beings, isn't it? When we have a crave to our family members, and then I will going to spend my whole energy and time for them. And that means that's not really helping me to train in my spiritual training, right? So this is the first method that Shantideva providing here. Think in this way. Think, scrutinize in this way. Understand the faults of craving to beings. Then one's family, parent and spouse, partner or friends, relative, to everyone, we should first we should reduce or lay it low, our crave or attachment. And then eventually one needs to eradicate that. Eradicate that. Now, from here, we can get misunderstand. Okay? Should not take this misunderstand, this instruction. That's the main point Shantideva introducing here. Okay? We should remove, lay it low, and eradicate our attachment, our crave to the beings. Just leave it, our understand there. Don't go further. Okay? Don't go further. When we go further investigation than this, then what these instructions could give us some wrong understanding or misunderstanding. It's, oh, so they are the one who are the most disturbing in my spiritual training. So I should hate them now. You see? Sometimes when we think too much, then we become like that. Right? That's not mean at all, Shantideva. Okay? Should not take even 1% of that. Okay, now this my parent, this my family members, this my sibling, this my husband, this my wife, this my partner, this my boyfriend, this my girlfriend is the most terrible disturbing in my spiritual journey. Okay, I should fix them now. If we generate in this way, they hate it, then you are misunderstanding this teaching. Okay? Just we need to live there. Remove crave, attachment. That's all. Okay? Don't go further. Only that is the only purpose that Shantideva introduced it here, that needs to remove this sense of crave, attachment towards beings, in short, right? Towards being. Only for this purpose, okay? That alone lessons that we should take from this teaching. It is not telling us that we should not support them. Okay? It is not telling us you should not take care of them. You should not help them. That's not showing here by these teachings. And further, this teaching is not guiding us to neglect them and hate them. That's 100% sure, not. Okay? We can see very clear, right? How those, even Buddha himself, and then many great masters in the past, and then even present nowadays, who really giving support to us, right? We are really mundane now. And then they really supporting us. Which means, are they not practicing this? Right? If just taking care, supporting, it's against this teaching, then that becomes against, right? They are against this teaching. Are they are not practicing meditative concentration? Right? See, that's how we can understand this teaching means just to remove that sense. That's all. And also this teaching, we should understand indirectly that to provide the care, provide the support, provide the help, crave is not requirement. Attach is not requirement. This we have strong misunderstanding in our world. Many people, they feel this. In order me to, for instance, in order me to help Sean, I must have some sense of attached to Sean. Is this? But normally we think that, right? Without I am having sense of attachment to Sean, how I will going to support Sean? Isn't it? Normally we think that, isn't it? If I do not have a sense of attachment or sense of crave or sense of attachment or sense of love to Sean, how I can act to support Sean? That's very our kind of like a ordinary mind way of thinking. We feel this is something very necessary in order to support, in order to provide help, care. Actually, it is not. Just to understand the Sean's difficult, by just focusing on Sean's difficult and just try to rescue Sean from that difficult. That's it. That's all we needed in order to uh, provide the care and support and help. That sense also sufficient for me to provide help to Sean. Yes, I'm not saying that me having attached to Sean will not help me to provide the support. I'm not saying that. Yes, The attach is supporting. But attach is not requirement. That's what I want all of us to understand. We feel attach is very necessary for me to provide help to the shown. That's misunderstand. For me to provide this support to the shown, another feature, another sense also can boost me or give some strength to me to provide support to Sean, which is just to observe Sean's difficulties, his struggle. That sense also enough for me to provide support to the Sean too. No, attachment is not a requirement. But we mix these two sometimes. We mix these two. And most of the time, we go with the attach. We feel attach is necessary. Love is necessary. Crave is necessary. Obviously, in a very ordinary person's way of talking, if we say, why you are helping your parent? Simply, I love my mother. They will answer that, right? I love my mother. Huh? Why not? You see? But that love and attach, very easy to slipper there. That's why we slippery many times up there, right? In that mental stage. And then this our enthusiasm transform into attachment. Most of the time, ordinary being providing support to others so I can gain something. That's now attachment. Look, right? When I have that sense, and then I'm providing help to others with a self-interest, with a sense of self-interest. I'm not looking at their suffer, their struggle. I'm not providing this help, support because they stuck. No. Oh, they stuck? If I support now, when I stuck, they will going to provide support back. See? Attach makes that. Is this really necessary for get support back? None either. Even if I just do without self-interest, just to see the others stuck and then they provide help, I do not need to worry that when I stuck, that person will going to provide me help or not. I do not. I no need to worry that. Definitely, this is karma. Whether I worried or not worried, it will come. I will get support. But when we provide the support with the attach, that could really ruin to get back support. I also understand. It can really ruin. You may not going to get support back. For instance, when we understand somebody helping me, but with the mean, then if I understand that in a normal way, okay, in an ordinary way, normal way, if I understand that, what I will going to do? I will ignore that, right? I will take it that support and then forget it, isn't it? Why I do that? Because I understood he's mean to me, right? He's just doing this for his own interest, not to help me. So I don't care. That's what we say, right? Actually, I should care because I got it support from him or her, isn't it? But his or her own that attachment, self-interest, ruin that consequences to experience. Understand? Is it clear? That's how. This is now very important point. Always. This is not a requirement. We quite often fail ourselves to remove that sense with our actions. That's why we call like this hope, hope. Hope will ruin your fruition. In Tibetan, we have saying that. Do you? In English? Hope will never going to ruin your hope fruition. Hope. That hope. It's not a requirement anyway. To support, to provide help and support to other, hoping something that I will going to get back, it's not necessary. Without this hope, even you provide support, you will going to get back. I will going to get back this support. Because that action I created, that karma I created, right? And then fruition of that karma, who will going to experience? None other than me. Nobody deserve. Nobody deserve than me because I created, right? But still we adding this hope and attachment there. That is we should train now. We should train now. After understanding this, we should train in our spiritual journey, in our helping others. Let's say, briefly, sometimes we need to provide help to the stranger on the street, isn't it? Just see their struggle and try to solve that struggle. That's it. Do it for that. No need to keep hope. No need to kind of like generate some sense of self-interest in there, right? Okay, so don't get misunderstand this teaching, okay? This until this stanza 8, that until this 5, 6, 7, 8 stanza, those 4 stanza, that is showing the one method how to abandon or avoid this worldly related to inner being, attachment to inner being. Okay? Attachment or crave to inner being can be removed by contemplating on these consequences, the long-term consequences of crave, short-term consequences of crave, and then the ultimate and how it is preventing us to develop our spiritual training by this crave. And then even that changeless fruition will going to destroy by this crave. Either. Is it either? Can I say either here? Also, maybe. Also, right? So understand all this. Now, this is something that Shantideva letting us contemplate. Now, this is itself is meditative concentration, isn't it? Analytical meditative concentration. He's letting us meditate the meditative concentration upon falls of crave, falls of attachment. This is something I think very important for the persons who like to practice the spiritual, and especially who likes to train the meditation, shamatha meditation. Not being able to avoid these crave, attachment, it's not possible that we will be able to train in meditative concentration, right? So this is mainly, Shantideva, what is introducing? The contrary of meditative concentration, right? This is the contrary of meditative concentrations. So if I want to train meditative concentrations, I should avoid this. Okay, so maybe we should stop here today. We have few minutes. If you have question, you can raise question.
Seems it's habitual, this craving and attachment. I mean, when you grow up, everything is about, you have to be strong and grab what you want.
Yeah. That's unfortunately in a mundane, that parent feels that that's their responsibility to teach their kids. And then kids training from parent this crave, attachment, kind of like a let kids to feel importantness of family member, right? Let's kids to feel the importantness of gain. That we train. So parents are intentionally training that to their kids. That's unfortunately, because parent themselves does not have this wisdom. So it is not because of bad intention, but it is just, there's nothing else they can teach them this, because they do not have these skills, right? The most of the parent didn't study these things. So this kind of education only gets in a spiritual community, and especially only in a monasteries. No academic teachings. Not only parent, but also academic teachers will going to let those young kids to build very strong habit of craving things. You just needs to learn how to survive in the world. In order to survive in the world, then you need this. You need this.
Craving to a point is encouraged by
Yeah, that's unfortunately, that's academic education's system. That's just there. That's why This is one way it's a little unfortunate. Not only one way, both way it is unfortunate, I think. Even this worldly gain that what we are talking about, right? Getting support from beings and gaining the wealth, reputation, all of this. Craving is not requirement again. Attach is not requirement again. You can gain. You can gain finance, reputations, promotions, positions, or material things without attach. Yes, there is a way we can gain too. Likewise, support from other beings we can gain without attachment as well. So, why we need to feel this attach is so necessary? It is not necessary. Anyway, so okay, then we go, we rest.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah.
If it's mainly the attachment that we need to turn away from, then why does Shantideva say we need to be away from the crowd? Because I assume that it's not necessary to be away from the crowd to not have attachment.
Yes, for us, okay, when we are staying in a crowd, this crowd or the many beings, they will going to do something to me, they will going to talk, somebody will going to talk, somebody will going to do something to me, and then these things, many things happening around me, right?
Mm-hmm.
When this many things happening around me, that for me it is very challenges to kind of like um, stay in a meditative concentration stage.
Okay. So
Almost
is it just in meditation, like you need to leave the crowd, but not like to live in a cave forever?
not forever. No, don't worry that. Okay, so it is okay until you remove this attach. You stay a little bit distance, and then once you remove this, then you can come back. Just like Shakyamuni Buddha, he did it, right?
Okay.
He stayed 6 year meditation until he removed all these emotions. And once he removed all this emotion, he came back to palace. Right?
Mm. Okay. Thank you.
You see another worry. Anyway, okay, now we do dedication. Zanam de tamje zebani tomne nyeben janam pamje ne shega nanche wala tubai seben zolen doan dovarasho jambal pave jidara kemba dang kundu zambo te yan te jende te da kunje jesu ndalochi Gewan de da tamje raktungo, gewan de yeshe open, sanam yeshe tsozone, sanam yeshe lechonwe, tamba kunyi tobrasho, Sanje kusum nyebe chenlab dan, chenye menjur dembe chenlab, gindun mechen dembe chenlab, malam drubar shu. Read in English. By this beneficial activity, may I obtain omniscience, and having vanquished the harmful enemies, greed, anger, delusion, may I liberate all being tossed about helplessly by the waves of birth, aging, illness, and death in the ocean of becoming. By conforming to the knowledge of courageous Manjushri, Jambal Yang, and in the same way as Samendabhadra, Kundusambo, and following their example, I dedicate perfectly all this virtue. By this virtue, may all being perfectly achieve the accumulation of merit, sanam, and wisdom, yeshe, and may they thereafter obtain the two holy bodies which result from this two accumulation. By the blessing of the Buddha, Sangye, who obtained the three bodies, by the blessing of the truth of the Dharmata, Chunyi, by the blessing of the infallible aspiration of the Sangha, Gendin, may this prayer of dedication be accomplished just as it is. Thank you. Have a good day.